So we're 13 games into the Premier League season, which is just over a third of the way into the season. And the games are going to go quick and fast this next month or two, 4 months until the next international break. But it's all heating up because if you look at the Premier League, it's kind of crazy because from Bournemouth in 13th place to Brighton in 4th, there's 5 points between 4th and 13th place. Like 1 or 2 wins or 1 or 2 losses could really determine a team's mood right now. And what I mean by that is, like, if you look at a club like Tottenham Hotspur, had they beat Ipswich or had they beat Crystal Palace, just one of those games, because of their goal difference, they'd be sat in 4th right now, and the mood around Tottenham would probably be quite good if they were in 4th. But because they've dropped points and they're in 7th, some Tottenham fans I've spoken to aren't very happy. And I'm trying to tell everybody this. If you're from 4th to 13th, your next 2 games, whether you win or lose them, can really determine where your club is in the league. It is a crazy, crazy season. And well, today's video is what have we learned from game week 13 in the Premier League in regards to the race for top 4 in terms of the title race. Could someone catch Liverpool? And we're going to break down all of the big 6 sides, as you say, and give a breakdown of their game, but where I think they're at, where they need to improve, and more at this stage in the season, and where I think they could finish after, we are a third into the season. So I'm going to start by touching upon the Tottenham game. This is the order I'm going to go into if you're just interested in my thoughts on one specific club. But I'm going to start by going to the Tottenham game because I didn't do a match reaction to the Tottenham game on Sunday because it was on at the same time as the Man United and Chelsea game. And obviously, my Man United content comes first on my main channel. And then I didn't have much time with the Liverpool City game on. So I didn't have time to do a review on the Tottenham game. I had to pick between either the Chelsea game or the Tottenham game to cover on Sunday. And the Chelsea game was just a lot more interesting. Because I'm not a robot. I can't get like 5 match reactions out in the space of like 5 hours. But I tell you what, from what I watched of the game, and obviously there was 3 games on, and it was a bit like you can't fully focus on 3 games at once. It's difficult, and my attention will be on United. I felt that Tottenham looked a bit leggy. I thought that they looked. Kulusevski obviously was on the bench, and then Solanke was off. You can see how important those 2 players were to Tottenham in that game. I thought Maddison was good. I think Ben Davies has stepped up well, but there's no Mickey van der Ven. Romero's been injured. Doggy hasn't been at his best this season. I think Tottenham are going to do well this season, and I stick by that. I do. They're consistently inconsistent, but they've scored the most goals. When they're good, they're amazing to watch. They're one of my favourite teams to watch in the league. Honestly, I think they play some great football, and I truly believe that Ange can do a job at Tottenham. But you've just got to look at their squad and their depth. If you look at Tottenham's bench, compared to the other teams in the Big Six's bench, like Chelsea's bench, they can bring on João Felix and Cuckoo. They can sometimes have Sancho on there or Mudryk. They spent 70 million on, and they could have Lavia on there if they've got Enzo and Casado in the pivot. And you look at what Chelsea can bring off their bench, and then the youngsters. You look at even Manchester United when everybody's fit. On our bench, we actually have some good players. Believe it or not. We've brought Rashford and Højlund off the bench in some games. Luke Shaw's back, so now he's a good fullback. Manchester City, obviously, we know how good their depth has been, although they look crap at the moment. Liverpool, to be honest, Liverpool's depth isn't crazy amazing, but they still have someone like a Jota or a Chiesa when he's back to come off the bench. But Liverpool's depth is actually really good at the same time because players like Curtis Jones and Joe Gomez and Connor Bradley that might not seem big names, they always step up when they come in and they're always actually really good underrated players. But if you look at Tottenham's bench and the players that they have at their disposal compared to the other Big Six competition, they are at a slight disadvantage, I think, due to injuries. They've obviously got a very young squad. I'm a massive fan of Bergvall and Archie Gray. I think they're fantastic players, but they're very young, very raw. And I think that's one of the reasons that, Tottenham probably won't be able to be where Arsenal, City and Liverpool are, or let's say where City are. But they don't actually have the people available to catch them. And I think sometimes some Tottenham fans that are really negative and angry at Ange, and I know money's been sent, need to be realistic at where Arteta was in his 2nd season of the rebuild. Ange took over a dead Tottenham side, let's be honest, that played negative football. Nuno, Jose, Conte, very different football to Ange, and he's having to rebuild it like Arteta did with Unai Emery. And it's the 3rd season when you really judge Ange, when he's had another transfer window in him. And do you see improvement from Ange's 1st season to 2nd season? I say yes for the most part. Still inconsistent, but I see what he's trying to do. That's the most important thing. Are you scoring more goals? Do you see more improvement? I see that in Tottenham. I know they dropped points to Fulham. I know that was an underwhelming game. I didn't watch the Roma game. But you were fantastic versus City. And I think Solanke and Kulu were so vital to the energy of Tottenham, the pressing, the movement, and they were missed versus Fulham. Tottenham and Leggy. I think when they've got a thin squad, when no Romero, no Van der Ven, you're having Jagason and Ben Davies at the back, and I think Ben Davies always steps up well. You know, Doggy's had injury issues, and I don't think he's been the same this season. Maybe he's playing with an injury. Who knows? They just need a couple signings. They need a couple depth. I think Sarr's been impressive when he's played this season. Incredibly underrated player. You've got Mikey Moore, Bergvall, Archie Gray. It's such a young squad that's only going to get better. You've got to look at Arteta in his sort of second, third season at Arsenal. We just had this young squad and there was a journey. And I know Tottenham fans aren't going to like me comparing them to Arsenal and stuff, but I think you just got to be realistic with how difficult the Premier League is, how thin your squad is because of the injuries to Van der Ven and how young it is. And actually, for the most part, is their general improvement, because had you beat Palace, you'd be sitting in fourth right now. And if Tottenham was sitting in fourth right now above Manchester City, I think most Tottenham fans would be very, very good and happy. Now, I look at Tottenham and I just think you're 4 maybe key signings away from really closing that gap. I generally think that Ams can be successful at Tottenham. And the first is a left back, and it's not. I think Udogi's fantastic. I think Udogi is a good player, and I really rated him last season. But I think he's had injury issues, and I think someone coming in that would help ease that off him would be beneficial. You could go for the experience in Anthony Robinson, Premier League proven, gets up and down the flank, brilliant player for Fulham, or you could go with someone really young, although you do have a very young squad in Dorgu, very attacking minded. But I think just to take the pressure off the Doggy, and also left backs and sometimes play right backs can take the pressure off Porro, because I do think you're thin at full backs, and a Doggy and Porro seem to play every game. Obviously there is Ben Davies there to take the pressure off a Doggy, but Ben Davies is sort of coming as left centre back. The next position you need is a Son replacement. Now, I know Son plays on the left and Dibbling is better on the right and Buemo is better on the right, and Semenyo can play left and right, but he has played more on the right this season. But these are just names in the Premier League that come to my mind. Semenyo, athletic, could be good at Tottenham, and Buemo could do Son because he can play centrally and out wide. Dibbling as well. And then obviously Callum Hudson-Odoi, I think Tottenham could do with another name on the wing, or Premier League proven. Less realistic, Gittins, Baller at Borussia Dortmund. Kvaratskhelia, don't think you're going to get him unless you want to spend 80 million. Don't see Levi doing that. But I think Tottenham need that Son replacement. He's not been at his best. And I think because as good as Mickey van der Ven is, his hamstring is not as good as he is. Murillo of Forest, Branthwaite maybe. I think Murillo of Forest would be a great addition for Tottenham. He's been unbelievable this season. Schlotterbeck. I think Tottenham need to left centre-back, left back. Or Schlotterbeck can play left centre-back and left back. Kill 2 and 1. Another winger, and then potentially midfielder, depending on what happens with Archie Gray and Bentancur, and because I do think you have really good options in midfield. And then, I think that's what Tottenham need. Potentially someone that could be back up to Solanke as well. You could even dive into the Cunha, João Pedro type player market, but it's Daniel Levy, you've got to be realistic. But I do think Tottenham will finish in the top 5, and I think the top 5 will get Tottenham in the Champions League place. I do. I actually do generally have faith in Tottenham this season. Going on to Chelsea. So, Chelsea are equal on points with Arsenal right now. They may have lost to Manchester City, but when they lost to Manchester City, I thought Man City were good at the time, and I thought the Chelsea played quite well. Considering that was Maresca's first proper game, a lot of Chelsea fans were disappointed with the window, were very sceptical and not thinking the best ahead of the season. It was an alright performance. They also lost to Liverpool, but they gave Liverpool a tough game. When you actually look at all their losses, they've been difficult games. They dropped points to Forest, difficult game. And when they dropped points to Crystal Palace, they could have won that game 3-0. They drew with Arsenal, a couple of months, 6 months after they lost 5-0 to Arsenal. So there's progress going on at Chelsea. 5-0 to Arsenal. They smashed Villa, and not only did they smash Aston Villa, but the football that Chelsea played this weekend versus Aston Villa was sensational football. They looked really, really good. And if you look at Caicedo and you look at Cucurella, how consistent they've been in 2024 under Maresca, even under Poch, I thought Cucurella got a bit better on Poch. I think Caicedo's been good for a good year now. Cucurella started to get a lot better maybe than May towards the end of the Poch era when he was starting to invert more. But Cucurella, for 9 months, has been top 3 left backs. He's been fantastic. He's been unbelievable for Chelsea. And 18 months ago, he was the flop of the season. He was the worst signing ever. It felt like the way he's turned it around. Caicedo's absolute beast of a player. Played inverted right back role. Could play 6, can play 8. Just phenomenal player. I talked about Caicedo very detailed in my video on Chelsea. Jackson's becoming clinical. Jackson had all the fundamentals to be a good player, but he was raw and he was wasting chances. But this season, he's got one of the best conversion rates in the league. And this is a really positive thing for Chelsea, but it's not the Cole Palmer show anymore. And that's not taking anything away from Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer is a top player. And he got a goal and assist in the last game without it being the Cole Palmer show, because Caicedo and Cucurella were arguably as good. Cole will make some fantastic blocks. But that's because rather than Chelsea playing like 11 individuals on the pitch, where Cole Palmer comes up with a moment of brilliance to get Chelsea points, Chelsea have turned into its side, where, to be fair, Caicedo might say, I'm going to give Cole Palmer a run for his money this year for player of the season. He might say that. Jackson might say, I could give him a run for his money. What Maresca's done is he's took a disjointed Chelsea squad where they'd had all these players they had to offload in the summer because they had like the biggest squad, and the media kept going on about it. They spent a lot of money on a lot of players, and there's a massive mess going on in the back of this massive overhaul. And Maresca has gone and just said, I'm gonna see who works for me, picks out who works, got his squad now, his Europa League, his Conference League squad, his Premier League squad, a few of them are interchanging. And he's making it work, and he's got a team, and he's got a system, and they're playing like a team. And one of the reasons he does that is he profiles players right. I couldn't believe Poch played Levi Colwill at left back. He's a left centre back. He's so good breaking out on the lines. He's a centre back. He understands Cucurella's strengths. He understands Caicedo's technical and physical abilities. And we talk about Slot and what he's done with Gravenberch, and how he's found Gravenberch this technically and athletically good player and moulded them to a great DM. Well, I think Enzo Maresca's aware of his squad's ability really well. And if you look at the squad, Nicholas Jackson has the third most non-penalty goals since the start of last season, only behind Watkins and Haaland. And if you think of the service that Haaland got as well, I know Jackson's missed a few opportunities, but yeah, Jackson's become clinical. I think that, his movement is so underrated. I think his movement, his ability to get in good positions and link play and actually improve the players around him is phenomenal. And I don't think Chelsea need us in them. I'm going to be honest, I don't. And even if you look at Chelsea here, this is goals conceded per 90 and goals per 90. So Tottenham got the most goals per 90. Liverpool have got the least amount of goals conceded per 90. But you can see that Chelsea are up there in the good areas of where you want to be, to show that their points tally is matching out with probably how they've been playing. And I want to show you something crazy about Chelsea. So in 2024, Chelsea would be in fourth place, in 2024. A good 10 points with a game in hand ahead of Newcastle. If they win that game in hand, that's 63. They'd only be 9 points off the top three in the whole of 2024. And why that's significant is this is Chelsea in 2023. Chelsea's form in 2023 would have them 13th in the league. And in 43 games, they would have 48 points. Just for 2024... they're on 60 points in 31 games. They could double that. They're from 4th to 13th. The progress that Chelsea have made in the last year, obviously Poch got them in good form towards the end of his tenure, but it just shows where Chelsea have gone, and there's something going on at Chelsea. Let's go into Arsenal. So, Arsenal balling with Odegaard back. I've always said this. Arsenal are good, and I don't like to say this because I support Manchester United, but Arsenal are a very good side with some very good players that play some very good football. And if somebody's going to take down Liverpool, it is Arsenal. Now, Chelsea are in the title race because they're equal in points of Arsenal, but I do think right now Arsenal will just be above Chelsea because of where they've been the last few seasons, of course, in the title race, and how brilliant Arsenal were. They've got, I think, 13 goals in 3 games with Odegaard back. That is fantastic stuff. I think they're playing really good football. I think the team clicks when Odegaard's there, when everyone's available. The right-hand side of Saka, Odegaard, Timber is just an elite level right-hand side. Calafiore, Marino, Martinelli, left-hand side, really exciting potential there as well. And look, we've not seen the left-hand side with Calafiore, Marino, Martinelli. I think we've seen it once, and I actually thought it looked better. Martinelli needs to be unlocked with that left-hand side. Calafiore, been hit and miss. I was impressed with him some games, less impressive in recent games. Marino, I think in recent games, has come in and done well. They need to look at that left-hand side, but the right-hand side is elite level. The left-hand side definitely has promise in terms of the dynamics of the build-up. They've got Gabriel and Saliba, who've, it's between them and Van Dijk and Konate for the best centre-back pairing. I think this season Van Dijk and Konate have been the best, but last season it was Gabriel and Saliba. They lock down Gyökeres, they can lock down players. And when you look at Arsenal's teams and the players they have and how they play, they are a really good team. They had a drop-off, but they had a drop-off last year. They went on the Dubai trip. They basically won nearly every game, and they caught City and took the title race to the last day of the season. You know, Arsenal know how to go on a good run after a dip, and if Liverpool do start to drop points like they did last season, there's no doubt in my mind Arsenal can catch them. And do you know who's been unbelievable this season is Saka. Bukayo Saka, his numbers, he's not a numbers player for me. Bukayo Saka's never been an output player for me. He's always had a strong influence on the game. But his output is ridiculous. 10 assists this season. If you play closer to goal, he'd get more goals as well, because he plays like he holds the width a lot. If he was allowed to come more into the half spaces, he'd get more goals. But because Odegaard's there, he stays quite wide. But Bukayo Saka versus West Ham was the first player to have 3+ goal contributions, win a penalty, create 4 chances and complete 4 crosses in a single Premier League game this decade, which was an unbelievable performance versus West Ham. He is an unbelievable player, Bukayo Saka. Unbelievable. And since the start of the international break, Arsenal have come back, Odegaard's come in, bosh. And even versus Liverpool, Arsenal showed some good signs. Talking of Liverpool, will Liverpool win the league? Hopefully not, because they will equal United's 20 league titles, which I don't want to happen. Every team who's had a 6-point lead or more after 13 games in a Premier League season has gone on to win the title. Now, Man United once under Fergie dropped a massive lead for Arsenal to win the title, but we weren't 6 points clear after 13 games. I think it was 11 points or something. We don't talk about that. But where Liverpool are, you never know with Man City. They do this thing after Christmas where they win every game, but Man City have never looked as bad as they have right now, and I think the mentality's gone. But they'll probably spend in January. Arsenal, I think, have got the most chance of catching Liverpool. I think Chelsea are great, but I think they're another season or transfer window away, to be honest, just because of where they've been the previous years. But if Chelsea could do it, I'm not ruling it out, but, it would be a lot to ask of Maresca. It would be a ridiculous achievement. Liverpool are at the top. And why are Liverpool at the top, in my opinion? Because the big names are showing up. Where was Erling Haaland? Where was Phil Foden yesterday for Manchester City? Biggest game. If Manchester City want any chance of being in the title race, they beat Liverpool. They closed that gap to what? Was it be 5 points or something if they beat Liverpool? I don't know what it had been. Yeah, if Manchester City want to make a statement, where was Haaland? Where was Foden? The big players did not show up. Do you know who showed up for Liverpool? The big players. Virgil van Dijk, elite 10 out of 10 centre-back performance. He's been unbelievable this season. Liverpool's defensive record, it speaks to himself, but he showed up. Mohamed Salah, penalty, proper penalty because the goalkeeper went the right way. Of course, causing problems. Assist, movement. Trent Alexander-Arnold as well came back in after injury. Massive good pass for some massive passes resulting in, Salah's assist. Showed up. And the players like Alisson are out. Kelleher steps in and he shows up. Joe Gomez steps in for Konate. He's been one of the best players and they've showed up. Conor Bradley stepped in for Trent earlier this season, showed up. Curtis Jones will come in and step up. And they might not be regulars and they might be players on the bench, but when they come in, they step up. That's what Arne Slot's got. He's improved every single player and he's not had a transfer window. Arne Slot defeated Carlo Ancelotti, Pep Guardiola, Xabi Alonso, and they've also put Eric Ten Hag on this, all without conceding a goal. And everyone was saying, Liverpool, they haven't played anyone yet. Well, Chelsea have been the joint second best team in the league and they won that game. Leipzig they beat. Arsenal, probably the second best team in the league. They drew that game away from home at the Emirates. At the Emirates as well. I always say this, the hardest game as a United fan is Anfield. The second hardest game is the Emirates. I've always said Arsenal at the Emirates has been harder for us than City at the Etihad because Oli beat City at the Etihad 3 times. That's going to be that is the hardest game they have, in my opinion. Obviously, Brighton is going to be a difficult game. Brighton are 4th in the league, Cup and League. Leverkusen 4-0. Villa, I know they've dropped off 2-0. Southampton gave them a more difficult game than Leverkusen, Real Madrid, Man City, and Aston Villa, which is crazy to say, but they did beat Southampton, which would have been the craziest one if they'd actually dropped points in that game out of all the games. Obviously, they then beat Real Madrid 2-0 and played them out the park, and Man City 2-0 and played them out the park. In the space of 2 days, they played Real Madrid and Man City at the park. It was horrible to watch as a Man United fan, but you have to say what job Slot is doing, and for me, it comes more down to Liverpool's recruitment and the money that's been invested into bringing in physically, athletically, and technically good players. That's what they've done spot on. So Liverpool look crazy, and I'm got a tweet up here from Jonty of all people, but he said, I find it crazy that Arne Slot has every single Liverpool player cooking this season. I don't think anyone's having a bad season. Like, okay, probably could see more of Nunez, But there's not been a Liverpool player where I'm like, he's been bad this season. I'm sure Kwanzaa would want more minutes, Nunez would want more goals. Do you know what I mean? But every single Liverpool player is being utilised correctly. It's like he knows what he has. He knows the players he has. He knows what their strengths are, and he knows how to get the best out of them. And going back to Arne Slot, for me, the reason Liverpool are top of the league is his ability to adapt and read games. The way that his players have taken on his instructions. In the Brighton game, he changed his tactics at half-time, and that's what won them the game. In the Real Madrid game, he changed his tactics and almost formation and role with his fullbacks at half-time. At Chelsea, he adapted at half-time. Liverpool, they came out better in the second half. Liverpool in the second half have come out better in a lot of games because Slot's, like the Ipswich game, first game of the season example, because Slot will adapt his tactics at half-time, communicate with the players, and then the players are able to execute that, which is crazy what Slot's done there. And then going on to my team, United. Now, I'm not going to waffle too much about Man United because I talk about them for an hour a day, every day on my channel, but I feel good about Man United under Amram. I do. I think the players are buying into the manager. There's good vibes. I think there's an identity there. I think there's lots of areas we need to improve, but I think Amram is aware of that. When I look at our problems, it's defending transitions because we don't have defensive players that can cover the ground that are quick enough to cover large space. If I look at other problems, it's the intensity, the midfield not having legs. Agarte's the only midfielder with legs. Agarte Maino is great, but if Agarte's injured and we have Casemiro Maino or Maino Eriksson, there's no legs in the midfield, we get run ragged. It's a young squad, and it's got good players, good potential. Agarte 23, Maino 19, Yoro 19, Garnacho 19, Hoyland 20. There's a young squad there, and I think if we can get recruitment right to improve the physical flooring, most importantly, but also the technical flooring, I think that United could be 4 or 5 signings away from really playing some good stuff under Amram. I believe that. And then last but not least, well, probably least actually, Manchester City. I'm going to be honest. The Wolves game, Man City weren't great, and they got a result. VAR did them a favour. The Southampton game, they were shocking, and they got a result. And the Fulham game, they were shocking, and it's been coming. And you know what? When we played Man City in the Community Shield, Man United played better than them, and that was 10 hard, bro. They've not impressed me this season at all, Man City. And Rodri injury did not help. And I think Rodri injuries had a mental impact because not only has it not helped them on the pitch, but I think mentally they think, oh my God, yeah, we need Rodri. I feel like they've lacked that belief, City. They've lacked mentally as well. But they lost 4-0 to Tottenham, 4-1 to Amarin, 3-0 up against Feyenoord. City fans, we're back. 3-0. They've fallen off. And I just think they can't string a pass together. They can't track their runners. Carl Walker is finished. Gundogan, I think football's leaving him. I wonder if Jamie Carragher will say what he said about Casemiro to Gundogan. Leave football before it leaves you, because he cannot track his runners in transition, and that's what Casemiro got slaughtered for. I don't know. But I just feel that City aren't good. And I just think, I watch Arsenal, I watch Chelsea, and I watch Tottenham, and I watch Brighton. Yeah, and I know Tottenham's behind City. But those 4 teams play better football than Man City this season. And I think if City continue like this, and they'll probably spend £1 billion in the January window, City could struggle this year. Really, really mean that. And look, everyone's like, City will turn around. They always turn it around. They always get written off, and then they turn around and they win the league. Remember when Arsenal was favourites to win the league and they were clear, and then Saliba got injured, blah, blah, blah. City have never been this bad. Like, this is Eric Ten Hag ball. Bottling a 3-0 lead in the Champions League. This is what it was like watching Eric Ten Hag. And Eric Ten Hag didn't have legs in midfield. Now Rodri's out. Pep doesn't have legs in midfield. Maybe there's a correlation there. The legs are going. The City game is aging. They need a rebuild. I don't... Maybe they'll prove us wrong. Pep is Pep. He's a manager. He might do a Sir Alex Ferguson. And Sir Alex Ferguson, the team Sir Alex Ferguson won the league with in his last season in 2013. Anderson, Cleverly, Rio on his last legs, everyone on his last legs. Maybe Pep can do a Sir Alex, but I don't think he will.